To clear his name, Gu Yan decided to attempt suicide in public. He begged me to take the blade for him when he did it. In my past life, I listened to him. I fell to the ground, severely wounded, and was bedridden from then on. Gu Yan used his suicide attempt to prove his devotion, winning everyone's sympathy and escaping the ordeal. Later, his political career flourished. He married me as promised, but as time went on, he grew to despise my weak, sickly body and aging looks. He locked me in the backyard and immediately got involved with his cousin. I died in regret. When I woke up again, I had actually returned to the day Gu Yan forced me to take the blade for him. Gu Yan said urgently,
Qingxu, as long as you take this blow for me, I will definitely marry you.
I smiled calmly and replied, sure. After my rebirth, I was sitting in the main hall, chatting with a group of young ladies. Suddenly, a commotion broke out. A squad of fierce-looking guards rushed into the room and shouted loudly,
"No one is allowed to leave."
The room instantly fell into chaos.
What happened? Why are they locking us in?
The guards scanned the room.
Princess Leyi's tea was drugged. While the princess was fast asleep in her room, a man slipped in with ill intentions. Fortunately, he was caught on the spot by her accompanying nanny. After being exposed, the man escaped through the window. Everyone present is a suspect.
I instantly realized that I had been reborn back to the day Duke Chen's estate was hosting the flower viewing party under the guise of viewing flowers. It was actually a matchmaking event well understood by the nobility. I, Gu Yan, and his white moonlight cousin Zheng Ying were both present. My gaze quickly swept across the room, and indeed, I saw that wretched Zheng Ying in the corner, looking full of curiosity. I clenched my fists tightly, my nails nearly digging into my flesh. After Princess Leyi was drugged, the scene fell into utter chaos. The Duke of Chen's household immediately detained everyone, vowing to find the culprit. Gu Yan was reported by someone for having walked toward the side courtyard alone and disappearing for quite a while with no one accompanying him. He came to me, swearing to the heavens that he had never entered the princess's room, much less committed such a beastly act. Of course, I believed him.
Qingxu, right now no one can vouch for me. I have no way to clear my name.
Anxiously, I asked, then, what should we do? Gu Yan said,
In a moment, I will draw my blade to commit suicide to prove my innocence with my death. When that happens, throw yourself over to block the blade for me. Don't be afraid, it is just for show. It absolutely won't actually hurt you. Seeing that I am not even afraid of death, the princess will surely believe I am innocent.
I fell for this deception and actually threw myself forward to block the blade when he staged his suicide. Who would have thought that Gu Yan's stab would be so brutal and deep? Blood instantly sprayed from my wound, leaving me half dead. Back then, my mind was completely filled with him. Even though I was severely wounded, I still used my family's reputation as a guarantee, begging the princess to spare Gu Yan, adamantly insisting he was no shameless scoundrel. Because my injury was so gruesome, everyone believed that Gu Yan had truly wanted to die just now. Coupled with my desperate guarantee, the princess finally let the matter drop. Gu Yan escaped this disaster. I once asked him why he had struck so ruthlessly. Gu Yan looked full of guilt.
Qingxu, if I hadn't made it look real, how could we have fooled everyone? I wanted to hold back my strength at the time, but in the panic I lost control and severely injured you. It is all my fault.
He then tightly gripped my hand and said,
Qingxu, don't worry. Once you recover, I will surely marry you with the grandest ceremony. You are my savior. I swear to cherish you for the rest of my life.
He kept his promise and married me, but in less than half a year, he gradually changed. I was left with chronic ailments from that stab wound and was confined to my bed. He grew disgusted by my sickly state, disgusted by my coughing up blood, and disgusted by my sunken cheeks. Later, he even went everywhere with his cousin, Zheng Ying. I had taken a blade for him, so he didn't dare divorce me. He let me remain his primary wife, but under the pretext of letting me recuperate, he locked me away in the inner courtyard. I passed away with deep regrets. Who would have thought that I would actually be reborn? Taking a deep breath, I observed my surroundings with a blank expression. The guards had already gathered everyone in the main hall for questioning. I stared intently at the main entrance. Before long, Gu Yan and several other men were escorted into the hall by the guards. Everyone's face was pale, their expressions filled with terror. Gu Yan still maintained his refined and gentle appearance, but looking closely, his fingertips were clenched tightly, and a hint of panic occasionally flashed in his eyes. The guard reported,
"My lord, these few men are the prime suspects in the incident."
Everyone's gaze gathered on those men. Duke Chen stared fiercely at Gu Yan.
Young Master Gu, Someone saw you heading toward the side courtyard alone. What were you trying to do?
Gu Yan pretended to be calm and said,
I just had a few too many drinks and felt a bit lightheaded. I wanted to take a casual stroll, but accidentally lost my way. As soon as I realized something was wrong, I immediately turned back.
Duke Chen pressed further.
Someone claims you stayed in the side courtyard for nearly 10 minutes. Since you took a wrong turn, why didn't you leave right away?
Gu Yan's face stiffened, yet he still forced himself to look composed.
I did want to leave immediately, but I was dizzy from drinking too much wine, so I sat on a rough stone for a short while, which delayed me.
Duke Chen asked.
Who can prove this?
Gu Yan's cheek twitched slightly. Only after a long pause did he squeeze out 2 words.
No one.
As soon as he said this, the entire hall erupted. Seeing the suspicious looks from everyone, Gu Yan panicked and said,
I absolutely had no intention of offending the princess. Please believe me, everyone. I am definitely not that kind of person.
Meeting Duke Chen's still skeptical gaze, Gu Yan quickly pointed at me and shouted loudly,
My personal character is best known to Song Qingxu. Qingxu is my fiancé-to-be, the daughter of Grand Tutor Song. Grand Tutor Song has always been rigorous. If I were a shameless scoundrel, how could he marry his daughter to me?
Every gaze fell upon me. Gu Yan quickly stepped up to my side.
Qingxu, why don't you tell them what my character is like?
What is his character like? A surge of fury rushed straight to my head. My father had a lifetime of honorable reputation. Yet, out of loyalty to a friend, he mistook this scumbag Gu Yan for a decent man and pushed me into a fiery pit. Gu Yan's father, the Marquis of Yong'an, was my father's close friend back in the day. He was known as a man of integrity, but was later demoted for offending an influential figure and died shortly after. Years later, his name was cleared. The emperor summoned his family back, bestowed riches upon them, and restored his title. However, he did not issue a decree to name an heir. Gu Yan's family was anxious and desperate because of this. My father, being a man of loyalty and honor, helped Gu Yan in every way possible when he returned to the capital. Gu Yan was very good at putting on a front. Both my father and I were fooled, firmly believing he was a good man. Yet, he was clearly a shameless scoundrel. Under everyone's watchful eyes, I stepped out from the crowd, bowed to Duke Chen, and said, Your Grace, he is indeed the prospective fiancé my father chose for me. As for his character, I have had very little contact with him, but everyone praises him as a man of integrity. Duke Chen's expression softened.
So he is the Grand Tutor's prospective son-in-law. Then he would certainly never do anything so vile.
He turned and patted Gu Yan on the shoulder, his attitude shifting.
Young Master Gu, my questioning earlier was just official business. Please bear with me.
Gu Yan quickly demurred. Duke Chen then went to question the other men. Gu Yan dragged me to a deserted corner and whispered,
Qingxu, I was set up.
My voice was cold. Is that so? Gu Yan gripped my shoulders tightly.
Qingxu, do you believe me?
I stared at him coldly for a long moment before nodding slightly. Of course I believe you. Gu Yan squeezed out a smile.
I knew you trusted me the most, Qingxu. But what if the others don't believe me? If they don't catch the real culprit, the Duke and the Princess will definitely insist that I'm the culprit. Qingxu, you have to save me.
How do I save you? Gu Yan looked around nervously, seeing that everyone was focused on the drama and the interrogation. With no one paying attention to this corner, he whispered,
In a moment, I will attempt suicide to prove my innocence.
I clenched my fists tightly. The sickening tragedy of my past life, at this very moment, began to ruthlessly drag me into an abyss of eternal damnation. Here it comes. It is exactly the same as in my past life. I feigned shock. Attempt suicide to prove your innocence? Have you lost your mind? Gu Yan shook his head.
Not a real suicide. It is just an act.
My heart felt heavy. Actually, it wasn't that I hadn't noticed his flaws before, but I was so hopelessly in love that I instinctively made up countless excuses for him, which was why I ended up with such a tragic fate in my past life. I let out a soft breath. How do we act it out? Gu Yan said.
In a moment I will draw a knife to kill myself. Qingxu, as soon as I raise the knife, you must rush forward to stop me. I will stop my hand and absolutely won't hurt you in the slightest. That way, everyone will believe I'm innocent and neither of us will get hurt.
I stared at him and slowly nodded. All right. Gu Yan's eyes lit up and his grip on my shoulders suddenly tightened.
Qingxu, you are truly wonderful. After today, I will definitely come to propose marriage.
I brushed his hands off, taking a half step back. Gu Yan, if you want to die, I will grant your wish. Before long, Duke Chen finished interrogating the others. They all had witnesses and physical evidence, clearing them of suspicion. The one with the greatest suspicion was now only Gu Yan. Everyone's eyes fell back on on Gu Yan. Duke Chen's gaze grew fierce.
Young Master Gu, no one else had the opportunity to commit the crime. Only you stayed in the side courtyard alone for a full 10 minutes, and there is no one to prove it. What else do you have to say?
Gu Yan's face flushed red.
I am Grand Tutor Song's future son-in-law. How could I do such a disgraceful thing? What will it take for you all to believe me?
Duke Chen said.
It is not that we don't believe you, but right now, you are indeed the prime suspect.
Gu Yan's expression grew tense. He suddenly looked at me, his eyes pleading for help.
Qingxu, say something.
I thought for a moment and asked in return, Young Master Gu, what would you like me to say? You and I share a close relationship. My words would hardly convince the public. These words instantly woke everyone up.
That is right. Miss Song and young Master Gu are betrothed. She is very likely to give false testimony. Her words don't count.
Gu Yan was dumbfounded, temporarily lost for words. Seeing his pathetic state, a flash of pleasure surged in my heart. In my past life, I had argued desperately, even bringing up my father to help clear him of suspicion. Now that I have been reborn, I will never do such a thing again. The crowd whispered among themselves, their words becoming increasingly unfavorable to Gu Yan.
There are plenty of hypocrites in this world. They look well, dressed on the outside. Who knows what dark secrets lie beneath?
Haven't you ever heard the phrase, a beast in human clothing?
Another person chimed in.
Young Master Gu, you are the prime suspect right now. Why don't you just confess? It would save everyone here from wasting their time.
Gu Yan flew into a rage.
How can you make such wild accusations and slander me like this?
The man sneered.
Then show us the evidence to prove your innocence. If there is evidence, we will believe you.
Gu Yan clenched his fists, gritting his teeth, but he had no words to reply. As he was mocked and ridiculed by the crowd, I watched coldly from the side, with absolutely no intention of stepping in to help him out.
Enough.
Gu Yan suddenly let out a furious roar. The surroundings fell silent. He looked around at everyone and shouted loudly.
Today, disaster has befallen me, and I cannot clear my name despite 100 mouths. Only through death can I prove my innocence.
After saying this, he glanced at me and suddenly lunged at a guard, pulling the dagger from the guard's waist. This was something he had calculated long ago. Among all the guards, only this one carried a dagger. If he used a long sword to commit suicide, it would be inconvenient for me to stop him, whereas a dagger was much easier to handle.
What are you doing?
The faces of the people around him changed dramatically, and they all backed away. Gu Yan took the knife, walked over to my side, and stood still, his expression solemn and tragic.
Since no one believes me, I have no choice but to prove my innocence with my life.
With that, he glanced at me and raised the knife, plunging it toward his chest. No, I cried out in panic, reaching out to grab his arm in a flurry. Gu Yan shouted loudly.
Don't stop me. Even if you must die here today, I will prove my innocence.
Amidst the struggling, the two of us were practically pressed against each other. This was the perfect moment Gu Yan had anticipated, according to the plan. At this moment, I should have thrown myself in front of him to block this stab for him. Gu Yan hinted with his eyes that the time had come, and suddenly let out a loud shout.
Qingxu, let me die.
With that, he swung the knife again, stabbing hard toward his chest. No! I screamed in terror, but my body suddenly dodged out of the way. Sequelche, under Gu Yan's disbelieving gaze, the dagger plunged fiercely into his chest. Blood gushed out wildly, a blinding, shocking crimson. The entire room fell silent. Gu Yan stared dead at me, a look of shock still frozen on his face, before his body went limp and he collapsed. The scene instantly fell into chaos. Someone nearby remarked,
Young Master Gu is indeed decisive. Look at how severely he is injured. He really was ruthless with himself.
He used his life to prove his innocence. It seems young Master Gu is indeed innocent.
I shook my head secretly on the side. How could he not be ruthless? The one he originally intended to stab was me. He wanted to use my severe injury to perform his drama of seeking death, thereby clearing his name. Since he was so bent on seeking death, I would let him taste this heart-gouging, bone-eroding pain himself. I feigned panic, threw myself to Gu Yan's side, desperately pulling at his arm, and cried out, Gu Yan, don't die. Gu Yan's eyes widened, and he struggled to raise a hand, pointing at me with a trembling hand.
Why? Why did you dodge?
Looking at him in this state, I felt no sympathy at all, only the coldness and despair of my past life when he stabbed me straight through the heart. Everything happening now is nothing more than his well-deserved punishment, and as for me, I only want to watch him die. My voice sounded tragic as I cried out, I'm so sorry. It is all my fault. I was supposed to block the knife for you as planned. But I didn't make it in time. Gu Yan looked as if he wanted to curse me out, but the dagger was buried deep in his chest. When he opened his mouth, bloody foam bubbled out, leaving him able to make only wheezing, airy gasps. A physician rushed into the hall to treat Gu Yan's wound, and someone pulled me aside. Duke Chen walked up to me and asked,
Miss Song, what on earth happened?
I trembled all over from crying, and meeting the searching gazes of everyone in the hall, I sobbed and said, just now, when your grace went to question the others, Gu Yan came to discuss a plan with me. He said he was innocent, but since he had no proof, he wanted to put on a show with me. Duke Chen put his hands behind his back and gestured for me to continue. He said he would attempt suicide to prove his innocence and wanted me to block the knife for him. He promised he would pull back his strike in time, so everyone would believe he was truly willing to die to prove his innocence. Duke Chen raised an eyebrow.
He wanted to prove his innocence by suicide, yet he asked you to block the knife.
I nodded. We were supposed to follow the plan, but something went wrong. I panicked for a moment and didn't manage to block the knife for him, which is why it turned out like this. He clearly promised he would pull back halfway. He clearly promised he would stop halfway. How could he be so severely injured? Duke Chen sneered.
So that is how it is. Miss Song, I'm afraid you've been deceived by this man.
I stopped crying and raised my tear-filled face. What do you mean, Your Grace? Just then, a gentle voice came over.
His grace means that this young Master Diyu intended to severely injure you from the start.
I looked toward the sound. A weary-looking Princess Leyi slowly walked over, supported by her maid. The crowd on both sides quickly parted to make way. Princess Leyi walked up to Duke Chen and stood still, speaking to me as I stood there in panic.
To prove one's innocence by death, if it is just a scratch, who would believe it? Only actual death or a severe injury would make others believe him.
She cast a cold glance at Gu Yan, who was lying on the ground.
Unfortunately, this man has a wicked mind. Unwilling to bear the consequences himself, he tricked you into taking the blame for him. If you had really blocked the blade for him as planned, the one lying there right now would be you.
My face instantly turned pale. No, I don't believe it. I suddenly lunged at Gu Yan on the ground, grabbing his hand and shaking it violently. Gu Yan, tell me quickly, you didn't mean to harm me, did you? Under my violent shaking, Gu Yan's face contorted, his body convulsing, and blood and foam kept gushing from his mouth. I continued to pull and shake him like mad. Answer me, did you want to harm me? Gu Yan, speak. Gu Yan's eyes had already begun to roll back, breathing more out than in. He struggled weakly, trying to shake off my hand, but was unable to move due to his severe injuries. Seeing that he wasn't dead yet, and grabbed his hand to continue shaking him. Gu Yan, speak to me. Are you really the pervert who broke into the commandery princess's room to escape your crime? Did you trick me into taking the blade for you, wanting me to be severely injured? Is that true? Tell me. Gu Yan's eyes rolled back, and he fainted from the pain. The physician quickly tried to persuade me.
Miss Song, I know you are devastated, but young Master Jiyu is severely injured. If you keep shaking him like this, he really might lose his life.
It would be better if he died. I wanted to shake him a few more times, but seeing that someone was stopping me, it was not convenient to continue. I wept and said, I'm sorry. I was just too emotional just now. A young lady nearby walked over and comforted me softly.
We all understand how you feel. Don't worry, no one will blame you.
Gu Yan's life was indeed resilient. The short sword was almost fully buried in his chest, and he had been shaken so violently by me, yet he was still hanging on by a thread. The physician pulled out the sword and stopped the bleeding for him, then turned to Duke Chen with a grave expression.
Duke, if there is no life-saving medicine, young Master Gu probably won't make it.
Duke Chen furrowed his brows tightly. If the man died at his place, it would indeed be a hassle. Commandery Princess Leyi raised her eyebrows in anger.
The matter has not been cleared up yet. I will not allow him to die. Duke Chen, save him quickly. I still have questions to ask.
Indeed, he could not be allowed to die. Duke Chen shouted loudly.
Madam, go and fetch my treasured life. Saving medicine.
Not far away, the Duchess, still shaken, hurriedly ran toward the backyard upon hearing this. I bit my lip. How is Gu Yan's life force so resilient? To think there is actually a miraculous medicine to prolong his life. Soon, the Duchess returned holding a wooden box and handed it to the physician. She handed it to the physician. The physician opened the wooden box, revealing a round, dark pill inside. He quickly took it out and stuffed it into Gu Yan's mouth, then continued to bandage the wound and stop the bleeding. It was unknown who had made that pill, but its efficacy was extraordinary. In just a brief moment, a hint of color actually returned to Gu Yan's deathly pale face. His eyelids fluttered, and he slowly opened his eyes. The physician stroked his beard and said with relief,
His life is saved. However, the stab was too deep, injuring his internal organs. In the future, His body will likely be extremely weak, and he will inevitably be left with a chronic cough.
Hearing these words, Gu Yan's face instantly turned pale. I squatted down beside him and questioned him. Gu Yan, you arranged for me to take the blade for you and promised you would stop at the end. Why did you stab yourself like this? Could it be that you wanted to severely injure me from the very beginning? Gu Yan's face contorted, and he said through gritted teeth,
Qingxu, you are my fiancé. I have been looking forward to marrying you. Now that I have suffered this injustice, I wanted to prove my innocence with my death. Why must you slander me? I am injured like this. If the Duke did not happen to have the miraculous medicine, I would have died here today. How could I possibly be putting on an act with you?
Gu Yan's anger agitated his internal state, and he began to cough violently. The coughing pulled at his wound, making him grimace in pain. Hearing Gu Yan's defense and seeing his miserable state, the surrounding people began to whisper among themselves.
Come to think of it, that plan sounds pretty risky.
What if Miss Song hadn't blocked it for him? Wouldn't he have taken the hit himself?
Who in their right mind would take such a risk?
But why did Miss Song say it was an act? If it were an act, it wouldn't be worth losing one's life over.
Exactly. My cousin is a man of noble character. He would absolutely never put on an act.
A crisp, clear voice rang out. Zheng Ying walked quickly through the crowd, rushed to Gu Yan's side, and asked anxiously,
Cousin, how are you?
Seeing her, Gu Yan's expression softened slightly.
I am fine.
Zheng Ying looked up, shouted loudly,
I believe in my cousin's character. He would never behave inappropriately toward the princess, and he would certainly never fake a suicide to escape blame.
She glared fiercely at me.
Miss Song, since you are betrothed to my cousin, why are you framing him?
Gu Yan stared fixedly at me and said weakly,
Ying Ying, say no more. Qingxu is the Grand Tutor's daughter, while I am merely a commoner. It is only natural that she looks down on me. Only, at the critical moment of life and death, Qingxu still slandered me. It truly chills my heart.
Gu Yan cleverly shifted the blame onto me. He was seriously injured now, and saying these words made him look quite miserable and pitiful. Everyone's expressions grew subtle. A man nearby who was on good terms with Gu Yan frowned and looked at me.
Miss Song, what you did is simply going too far. Gu Yan proved his innocence with his life and was severely injured, proving that he is indeed innocent. Yet you falsely accused him. How utterly despicable.
His companion snorted coldly.
Exactly.
Gu Yan has already proven his innocence. Why do you keep trying to smear him? Miss Song is truly malicious.
Everyone turned their eyes to me, waiting to see how I would defend myself. But why should I defend myself? I immediately feigned a look of sudden realization, turned to the crowd, and called out loudly, Yes, 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 I was the one who falsely accused Gu Yan. Everything I said just now was complete nonsense. He truly wanted to seek death just now. He wasn't putting on an act. If you want to blame someone, just blame me. Everyone was stunned. I then pointed at the two men who had just spoken and said, Since Gu Yan is innocent, then the crime of assaulting the princess must have been committed by one of you. The two men were startled and hurriedly said,
How can you make such baseless accusations?
I spoke up. You were the ones who just said. Gu Yan proved his innocence by seeking death, so the culprit is definitely not him. If it is not him, then the culprit must be among you. Duke Chen's sinister gaze shot over. The two men hurriedly waved their hands.
It is not us. Gu Yan is the prime suspect. He has neither witnesses nor physical evidence, whereas we all have alibis.
I said, but he proved his innocence by seeking death, which shows he is innocent. The two men blurted out.
That is because the two of you conspired to fake a suicide and put on a show, just to deceive us.
As soon as those words were spoken, the man himself was stunned by his own words. The corner of my mouth curled up imperceptibly. Someone else spoke up.
Speaking of which, when young Master Gu tried to end his life just now, he deliberately rushed toward the guard carrying a short sword. After getting the sword, he deliberately returned to Miss Song's side. This is a bit too coincidental.
That is right. If he truly wanted to prove his innocence with death, why did he bypass the guards with long swords nearby and go out of his way to snatch a short sword? And after snatching the sword, he didn't slit his throat on the spot,
but instead walked back to Miss Song's side before doing it.
The faces of Gu Yan and Zheng Ying turned pale. Princess Leyi spoke up.
Qingxu, he deliberately stood next to you because only you would actually stop him.
She then snorted coldly at Gu Yan.
This princess does not care whether you commit suicide or not. This princess only wants the truth. If suicide could prove innocence, then whenever anyone commits a crime, they can just put on a show of suicide. Why would we even need evidence?
As soon as these words were spoken, Gu Yan's face turned deathly pale.
Indeed, young Master Gu, right now, you are the only suspect. It is useless. No matter how many times you stab yourself. Since you are awake, let us verify your alibi again. You said you went to the backyard because you were drunk. Which path did you take? Which rock did you sit on? You should at least be able to tell us that. If you cannot, I will personally take you to the backyard to identify the spots, to see if the path you took leads to the princess's private chambers.
Gu Yan opened his mouth, seemingly wanting to speak, but suddenly began to cough violently and uncontrollably. Zhang Ying hurriedly supported him, saying anxiously,
You are all bullying him too much. Can't you see my cousin is severely injured and has not yet recovered and needs to rest properly? My cousin's father was the Marquis of Yong'an. If anything happens to my cousin in your residence, it will be your doing, and His Majesty will not let you off lightly.
Bringing up the deceased Marquis of Yong'an, everyone looked at each other. Everyone knew about the old case of the Marquis of Yong'an. His Majesty was quite sympathetic toward the Marquis's estate, so some respect had to be given. Zhang Ying continued,
Although my cousin is currently a commoner, he is a disciple of Grand Tutor Song and is the Grand Tutor's prospective son-in-law. How can you bully him like this?
Hearing her bring up my father, a wave of disgust rose in my heart. I spoke up. Although Gu Yan is my father's student, if he indeed behaved insolently toward the princess, the Song family will sever all ties with him and will never show him any favoritism. Both Gu Yan and Zhang Ying were stunned. After a long pause, Gu Yan seemed to recover slightly and said tearfully,
Qingxu, why must you hurt me like this? You clearly know I am innocent. My body hurts so much, but the way you don't believe me makes my heart ache even more.
His dramatic display made him look exactly like an honorable man whose sincere feelings had been betrayed. In the past, if I had heard him say such things, I would have charged forward to fight for him, protecting him with all my heart. But now, I said with a trembling voice, how do you expect me to believe you? You went to the backyard alone for half an incense stick's time. Everyone else has an alibi, except for you. You wanted to prove your innocence with death, yet you asked me to help you fake it. We clearly agreed that when I blocked the blade, you would stop, but you didn't. Just now, when I spoke the truth about our act, you turned around and bit me, refusing to admit it to the death, and even deliberately led others to scold me. Gu Yan, with every single matter, how do you expect me to believe you? Gu Yan struggled on the ground, desperately trying to explain.
Qingxu, it wasn't like that.
I shook my head and stepped back. If this matter cannot be brought to light, I can no longer believe you. The Duke of Chen looked at Gu Yan with eyes full of disgust.
Young Master Gu, we shall go to the backyard right now. The backyard is not completely empty. If you point to the wrong path and stone, it is highly possible that an eyewitness will emerge. Have you thought about how to answer?
Gu Yan's face turned pale. If he pointed to a place at random, what if along that path or next to that stone, there happened to be someone? Wouldn't that prove he was lying? The Duke of Chen raised his hand.
Men, carry young Master Gu to the backyard and have him pointed out.
Cold sweat broke out on Gu Yan's forehead, and his lips trembled. I stood quietly aside, watching him look like a stray dog, feeling extremely gratified in my heart. Gu Yan, let's see how you talk your way out of this. Two guards walked over to drag and carry Gu Yan. Gu Yan's face changed drastically, and he struggled desperately. I
am still injured. You cannot treat me like this.
At this moment, how did he have even a shred of his usual high and mighty, gentle, and elegant demeanor? He was the very picture of someone driven into a corner, a clown making a complete fool of himself. It was utterly ridiculous, yet incredibly satisfying to watch. The guards remained unmoved. Seeing that he was about to be dragged away, Zhang Ying bit her lip, suddenly stepped in front of him, and shouted loudly,
I can prove my cousin's innocence.
Everyone was taken aback. The commandery princess frowned.
How can you prove it?
Actually,
Zhang Ying hesitated for a moment before saying,
my cousin went to the backyard to meet me.
The crowd went into an uproar, and the way they looked at them completely changed.
We were having a private tryst in the backyard. Hearing the commotion, we left in a hurry, fearing we would be seen. We left separately. That is why others only saw my cousin enter alone and leave alone.
Zhang Ying not only explained what happened, but also specified which path they took and which rock they sat on. Everyone looked at each other with strange expressions in their eyes. A young lady nearby whispered,
That is right. I did see Miss Zhang heading toward the backyard, and then she disappeared from sight.
With this, Zhang Ying's words gained a bit more credibility. I stared at Zhang Ying coldly. In my past life, when I was gravely ill and dying, Zhang Ying had come to my bedside to gloat, saying many hurtful things, and revealing the truth of what happened back then. When Gu Yan entered the backyard alone, Zhang Ying, knowing he was about to marry me, felt unwilling to let go, and quietly followed him. She saw with her own eyes Gu Yan entering the princess's chamber, and then hastily escaping through the window. Afterward, she used this to blackmail him, forcing Gu Yan to marry her as an equal wife. Only then did Gu Yan welcome her into the household. Only at that moment did I understand understand why, less than half a year into our marriage, even though Guyan still needed my father's support in court, he dared to bring Zheng Ying into the household with such impatient haste. It turns out someone had caught him by the tail. In my daze, Zheng Ying suddenly rushed in front of me and fell to her knees with a thud.
Miss Song. Actually, my cousin and I have long been in love with each other, only because he was betrothed to you. We had no choice but to meet in secret. At today's flower viewing banquet, the front courtyard was crowded with prying eyes, so we secretly agreed to meet in the back courtyard. Who would have thought something would happen to the princess, and my cousin would be mistaken for the culprit because he didn't dare to speak the truth. He ended up in this state. Miss Song, if you hadn't intervened back then and torn my cousin and me apart, how could he have ended up like this? Miss Song, please fulfill our wishes.
She actually blamed me. I pretended to look at Guyan in shock. Is what she said true? Guyan looked around, his face filled with struggle. Right now, he had only two paths. Either admit to having an affair with Zheng Ying and betraying the betrothal, or admit to sneaking into the princess's bedchamber with malicious intent. Between two evils, which was the lesser one, was clear. At a glance, very quickly, Guyan said to me, apologetically,
Qingxu, I am sorry. My cousin and I have long had an affair. I went to the back courtyard precisely to meet her. Such a scandalous matter was hard to speak of, which is why I wanted to prove my innocence with death.
He finally admitted it. Even if I couldn't kill Guyan today, I would still nail this despicable couple to the pillar of shame and call off the engagement in public. I rushed forward and slapped him hard across the face. Guyan was already severely injured. How could he withstand this blow? His body immediately slumped, and he fell back onto the ground. Even though I was bullying an injured man like this, not a single person in the room stepped in to stop me. Seeing that no one was going to help him, I felt completely reassured. I grabbed Guyan and slapped him several more times in quick succession, thoroughly venting my pent-up anger. Zheng Ying hurriedly tried to pull me back, saying,
Miss Song, my cousin is still injured.
I slapped her across the face, using all my strength, forcing her head to whip to the side. How dare an unchaste woman like you speak up? Zheng Ying's fair cheek instantly swelled up and turned red. Faced with everyone's contemptuous gazes, she did not dare to make a sound. With tears in my eyes, I pointed at Guyan and said, Guyan, since you and Zheng Ying had an affair long ago, why didn't you say so when my father proposed the marriage? We have been betrothed for half a year, so why did you never mention that you had a cousin with whom you shared such deep affection? If this isn't a fraudulent marriage, then what is? Guyan gasped and said,
I'm so sorry.
My voice trembled as I spoke. Guyan, from this day forward, our betrothal is null and void. Once I return to the manor and inform my father, we will formally call off the engagement.
Qingxu.
Guyan panicked. He struggled on the ground, crawling to my feet, and tugged at the hem of my skirt, saying,
The one I love is you. Please do not say such things. I will not call off the engagement.
I wanted to kick him away forcefully, but with so many people around, it would be unseemly. So, I stood firmly in place. I asked him back, if you truly love me, why are you meeting your cousin here in secret? What kind of occasion is this? Could you two really not wait? Beside us, Duke Chen's face was livid. As the host, he had been dragged into this mess for no reason and had even lost a precious life-saving pill. It was a heavy loss. At this moment, he absolutely detested Guyan. The others also began to criticize Guyan and Zheng Ying.
What do you mean Miss Song is breaking you apart? She is the daughter of the Grand Tutor. So many noble families are begging to marry her. Why would she ever need to force apart a pair of lovers?
It is clearly Guyan, who wanted to cling to the Song family, so he didn't dare to tell the truth and deceived Miss Song.
Young Master Ji acting in this manner is truly disgraceful. And Miss Zheng, if you and young Master Gu are truly in love, you should have told Miss Song earlier. Once the engagement was broken, you could have been together openly and honorably, instead of sneaking around in private and meeting behind everyone's backs.
Amidst the crowd's condemnation, Zheng Ying lowered her head, not daring to argue back anymore. Guyan's face turned pale and then red. The good reputation he had painstakingly built was completely ruined from this day forward. Just then, a guard suddenly came to report.
The culprit who drugged the drink has been caught.
Duke Chen immediately said,
Bring them in.
A maid in green was escorted into the main hall and pressed to the ground. The Duchess of Chen, upon seeing the maid, instantly flew into a rage.
Lu Chao, it was actually you. It was actually you.
The maid hurriedly kowtowed and begged for mercy. Duke Chen said sternly,
How did you do it? Confess the truth.
The maidservant said, trembling with fear, A man approached me and ordered me to drug Commandery Princess Leyi's tea, and then lead her to the side room to rest. Once he broke in and was found alone in the room with her, she would have no choice but to marry him. The front hall was very busy today, and most of the staff had been reassigned, leaving the backyard unguarded. After I drugged her, I also sent away the few servants in the backyard. Then he came in.
Duke Chen's eyes flared with rage.
Who was that man?
The maidservant bit her lip and did not answer. Duke Chen pointed at Gu Yan.
Was it him?
Xiao looked at Gu Yan and shook her head.
No, it wasn't him.
Gu Yan and Zheng Ying breathed a sigh of relief at the same time. Duke Chen bellowed.
Who on earth was it? Speak up now.
Xiao suddenly stood up, her eyes welling with tears.
Your Grace, my family is still in that person's hands. I beg your forgiveness, but I cannot say.
With that, the maidservant suddenly collapsed to the ground, motionless. Amidst the screams of shock, the maidservant had suddenly fainted. She had died on the spot. With Chao's collapse, the clue was completely cut off. After all this commotion, everyone was growing very impatient. It was no longer appropriate for Duke Chen and Commandery Princess Leyi to keep holding everyone there. One by one, the guests began to leave the Duke's estate. Duke Chen could not prove Gu Yan's guilt, and seeing that he was severely injured, he gave up and let him leave. Zheng Ying supported Gu Yan as they walked away. Before leaving, Gu Yan said to me,
Song Qingxu, you have truly disappointed me today.
He used to control me with similar words all the time. When I loved him, I naturally didn't want to disappoint him and did everything to please him. But now, hearing these words, I felt completely indifferent. I said calmly, your disappointment only makes me happy. Cough. Gu Yan froze for a moment, spat out a mouthful of blood, and left in a wretched state. I returned home and told the whole story, from beginning to end, to my father. Upon hearing this, father was absolutely furious. He immediately took men to the Marquis of Yong'an's estate to call off the engagement and expelled Gu Yan from his tutelage. In my past life, when I married him, father had specially requested a favor from the emperor to name Gu Yan the heir to the marquisate, hoping only that I would become a proper marchioness. But he never expected that barely half a year into the marriage, Gu Yan would be inseparable from Zheng Ying, while keeping me imprisoned in a separate villa. All the karmic retribution finally began to unleash at this very moment. I wanted to see how, without the support of the Song family, he could survive for even a few days. Gu Yan's private trysts with his cousin deceived the Grand Tutor's daughter into marriage, which shows how utterly despicable his character is. Now that he was expelled from my father's tutelage, he would find it hard to take a single step in the capital. In this life, he could forget about inheriting the title as smoothly as he did before. The people I sent out returned to report that Gu Yan lay in bed drinking medicine every day, his face pale and lifeless, having lost all will to live. Everyone else in the Marquise's household was also sighing, shrouded in gloom and misery. Hearing that he was doing so poorly brought me immense satisfaction. Over the past few days, the more I thought about it, the more something felt off. Gu Yan's foundation was still shallow. He had no prior relations with the Duke of Chen's estate, so it was highly unlikely he could bribe a maid inside, nor would he know the Commandery Princess's whereabouts. The most likely scenario is that he stumbled upon someone else's plot, learned that someone wished to harm Commandery Princess Leyi, and seized the opportunity to gain the upper hand by marrying the Commandery Princess to ascend to heaven in a single step. Unfortunately, heaven did not favor him. Having figured out this crucial point, I wrote a letter to Commandery Princess Leyi, offering my speculation. As for whether she can uncover the truth, it is beyond my control. Looking out at the bright light outside the window, I let out a soft sigh and handed another letter to my trusted maid, Hong Yao, to be delivered to the Duke of Chen's estate. Hong Yao took the letter and left to carry out the order. A few days ago, Gu Yan drew his blade to commit suicide at the Duke of Chen's estate, forcing the Duke of Chen to use his life-saving pill to save him. This debt, shouldn't Gu Yan repay it to the Duke of Chen? Not long after the letter was sent, the servant guarding the entrance came to report that the steward of the Duke of Chen's estate was leading a group of people marching grandly toward the Marquis of Yong'an's estate. The Duke of Chen holds high status and great power, with a substantial family fortune. For him to be so easily persuaded to go to the Marquis of Yong'an's estate to demand debt repayment, he must have been utterly furious. I took a light sip of my tea and said, "Inquire further." As the servant ran out, Hong Yao could not help but smile and say,
Miss, with the Duke of Chen demanding the debt with such fanfare, I'm afraid young Master Gu will cough up blood from anger.
I set down my teacup. My goal is precisely to make him miserable. After I broke off the engagement with Gu Yan was ostracized by the aristocratic circles, leaving him deeply depressed. Coupled with his unhealed severe injuries, he had no choice but to recuperate in his estate. An injury like that, how could it be easily healed? Back then, when my lungs were damaged, I coughed constantly, and my chest felt as if it were being stabbed
stabbed by knives. Such an illness required absolute rest and recuperation. Yet Gu Yan and Zheng Ying constantly vexed me, both openly and secretly, causing my condition to repeatedly worsen. In just over a year, I was gone. That kind of torment is something Gu Yan should taste thoroughly for it to be fair. In the evening, the servant hurriedly returned to report that the housekeeper of the Duke of Chen's estate had made an exorbitant demand, asking the Marquis of Yong'an's estate for 5,000 taels of silver. Young Master Gu fainted on the spot from sheer anger. Hong Yao spat in disgust, placed her hands on her hips and said,
Serves him right.
The Marquis of Yong'an's estate did not have deep roots. They had only returned to the capital 2 years ago and had no steady source of income. Most of the emperor's rewards had been spent on daily living expenses and bribing officials here and there. Their expenses were immense. Now, if they had to produce another 5,000 taels, that entire family would probably be left with nothing to eat. Thinking of this, I stood up. I had spent quite a lot of silver on him in the past. Hong Yao, we are going to demand it back as well. The next day, I took my servants with me and headed to the Marquis of Yong'an's estate in a grand manner. When the Madam of Yong'an Marquisate heard I had arrived, she came out to greet me in person. With a face full of smiles, she said,
Qingxu, you are here to see Gu Yan, aren't you? He originally wanted to go and apologize to you, but unfortunately, he has been seriously injured and bedridden lately, unable to get up. Now that you have come in person, it really couldn't be better.
As she spoke, she warmly reached out to take my arm. I quietly took a step back. How ridiculous. Gu Yan and Zheng Ying had caused such a scandalous affair, and I had already broken off the engagement with him. She actually still thought I was pining for Gu Yan. I didn't bother to say much. Madam, I came today because I have important business with Gu Yan. Please lead the way.
Of course. This way, please.
The Madam of Yong'an Marquis Mansion beamed with joy and led the way ahead. After passing through the covered veranda, we soon arrived at Gu Yan's courtyard. The moment the door was pushed open, a familiar figure was standing inside. It was Zheng Ying. The madam's face darkened instantly.
Why are you still here?
Zheng Ying stepped forward, putting on the airs of the mistress of the house. He said to me,
Miss Song, you're here to see cousin, right? I've been the one taking care of cousin lately. This way, please.
This wicked woman, even now, when she was backed into a desperate corner, still wanted to flaunt her ridiculous sense of superiority in front of me. Between her lines, she was completely showing off her intimacy with Gu Yan. I said indifferently, then lead the way. The madam's face turned livid, but she couldn't lose her temper here. She forced a smile and explained to me,
Qingxu, don't listen to her nonsense. Lately, it has been the maids and servants of the courtyard attending to Gu Yan. Zheng Ying lives with me, and her chances of seeing Gu Yan are extremely rare. The position of the young mistresses will always be yours.
Hearing this, Zheng Ying bit her lower lip tightly, seeming about to argue. The madam beat her to it and scolded,
Zheng Ying, if you dare to speak nonsense again, I will throw you out of the Marquis mansion today.
Zheng Ying's face turned pale, and her steps, which were about to move forward, froze. The madam hurriedly ushered me inside. As soon as we entered the room, a strong, pungent smell of medicine hit my nose. I frowned, covering my nose and mouth with a handkerchief. The madam of Marquis Yong'an called out loudly,
Gu Yan, look who is here. It is Qingxu. Qingxu has come to see you.
On the bed in the distance, a figure struggled to prop himself up, his voice filled with pleasant surprise.
Qingxu, is it really you? You are willing to forgive me. Cough, cough, cough.
I took a few steps closer. The warm sunlight from outside the window fell, shining upon Gu Yan's face. In just a few short days, he had grown so thin that his cheeks were sunken, and his complexion was sallow, and his eyes dull. He no longer had the handsome looks I once loved. After speaking just those few words, he began to cough violently again, as if he were about to cough up his very lungs. The Marchioness of Yong'an rushed forward to support him. I said with disgust, Gu Yan, you've become so ugly. Gu Yan's smile instantly froze, and he looked up at me in disbelief. In our past life, he stabbed me with his words just like this. I continued, Young Master Gu, do not flatter yourself. I did not come to see you today. I came to collect a debt. Both of them were stunned.
Collect a debt?
I nodded. Indeed, after you returned to the capital, you received much care from my Song family. How much money I spent on Gu Yan. You should know very well in your hearts. Now that the engagement is broken, should that money not be returned? The expressions on both their faces instantly became quite a sight. The Marchioness of Yong'an couldn't help but say,
Qingxu, the one Gu Yan loves, is you. Don't let yourself be provoked by that wench Zheng Ying. The two of you were doing so well. Why bring up money now?
I said calmly, Gu Yan, are you trying to back out on your debt? A grown man using my money while fooling around with someone else. And now you want to deny it all? Have you no shame? Gu Yan's face turned a mix of blue and white.
Qingxu, must you humiliate me like this? I promise you, I will send Zheng Ying away immediately and never have anything to do with her again. Then, I will marry you with all due ceremony.
I almost laughed out of anger. I looked him up and down and said in the same contemptuous tone he used in his past life, Gu Yan, look at yourself, looking neither like a man nor a ghost. You are hideously ugly. One look at you makes me sick. And with that broken body of yours, who knows how many years you have left to live? An ugly, weak, useless thing like you actually expects me to marry you. Could it be? You want me to become a widow the moment I marry in?
You.
Gu Yan was furious, falling into another fit of bone-rattling coughs. The Madam of Yongan Marquise's face darkened instantly.
Song Qingxu, how dare you curse my son to an early grave?
I remained unmoved. Fortunately, however, telling the truth, the Madam of Yongan Marquis pointed at me.
You? How did you become so sharp-tongued and mean? And you call yourself Grand Tutor Song's daughter?
I said, the sages once said, if you repay injury with kindness, with what then will you repay kindness? To those who treat me well, I will naturally return the courtesy. But to those who treat me poorly, I will show absolutely no mercy. Since you treat me this way, do you still expect me to speak to you with gentle words? If I did, I would truly be letting down those who genuinely care for me. Enough idle chatter. Pay me back. With that, I held out my hand, signaling them to hand over the money. Furious, the Marchioness of Yongan shrieked.
That was a voluntary gift you gave to my son. How can there be any reason to demand it back? This money will absolutely not be returned.
I raised an eyebrow. Fine. You won't return it then? Then I shall send people out to spread the word. I'll tell everyone that your Marquis of Yongan's household used my money. Yet, you shamelessly refuse to pay it back. Let's see how badly your reputation will be ruined. And let's see how Gu Yan will ever inherit the title in this lifetime. The Marchioness of Yongan froze. Beside her, Gu Yan said in resentment,
Mother, give it back to her.
Before he could finish speaking, he fell into another fit of violent coughing. The Marchioness of Yongan hurriedly supported him.
My son. Yesterday, the Duke of Chen's household came to our door. They said you took their life-saving medicine and demanded 5,000 taels of silver in compensation. That sum has already emptied our family savings. Where would we have any spare money left?
Gu Yan frowned, raising his eyes to stare at me, and said with difficulty,
Song Qingxu, you heard it too. There is no silver left in the estate. If you take a fancy to any items in this room, just take them to offset the debt.
I nodded. We'll do just that. Hong Yao led several maids and servants into the room in response. What are your orders, miss? I pointed to several items in the room. This one, and that one too. Take them all away. They all complied in unison, right in front of the Marchioness of Yong'an and Gu Yan. They swiftly carried off several items. Gu Yan stared at me in disbelief.
Qingxu, are you truly this heartless?
I smiled and said, Young Master Ge, don't be so thick-skinned. You were the one who told me to take them, and now you call me heartless? It is only natural to pay back what you owe. In the future, do not spend other people's money so freely.
Foey.
Gu Yan coughed up a mouthful of fresh blood. Before leaving, I ordered the servants to place the items before Gu Yan and took out the ledger to check them with him. Using these items to offset your debt. Do you have any objections, young Master Gu? Gu Yan's breathing was rapid and shallow. He roared in anger.
No objections.
I smiled faintly. Very well then. I must trouble you to sign this receipt, young Master Gu. Gu Yan snatched the brush in a rage, scribbled his name down, and pressed his thumbprint onto it. I tucked the receipt away safely and turned to leave. As I walked out of the courtyard, I saw Zheng Ying still standing not far away, glaring at me intently. I paid her no mind and departed grandly with my entourage. After returning to my estate, I had Hong Yao take one of the scroll paintings and carefully place it inside a wooden box. Hong Yao was somewhat puzzled. Miss, this painting doesn't look like the work of a famous master. Why do you treasure it so much? My fingertips lightly brushed over the scroll as I murmured, this is the surviving work of Consort Tang. In my past life, after Gu Yan married Zheng Ying, my father finally realized something was wrong. He stopped introducing him to influential people, cutting off his future prospects. Gu Yan was furious and found all sorts of ways to torment me. Later, someone recognized the painting in his possession as the late work of Consort Tang. He then took the painting to seek an audience with the Grand Princess. The Grand Princess had shared a deep love with her late husband, so she was naturally extremely grateful to him. With the Grand Princess's patronage, Gu Yan enjoyed a smooth and successful career. When I went to collect the debt today, my true target was this very painting. Gu Yan, not only will I make your life a living hell, but I will also snatch away your opportunity to pave a path to success for myself. Before long, I brought the painting to the Grand Princess's manor. Upon seeing the painting, the Grand Princess wept on the spot. In her excitement, she wanted to adopt me as her daughter. After politely declining a few times, I bowed gracefully and said, "Daughter pays her respects to mother." The adoption of a daughter had to be announced to the world. My father was deeply gratified, and those who had criticized me for breaking off the engagement were completely silenced. This news, naturally, also reached Gu Yan's ears. One day, a servant came rushing in to report.
Miss, young Master Gu from the Marquis of Yong'an's manor is here to see you. He said if you won't see him, he won't leave. He looks so frail and sickly. If he really dies in front of our gates, I'm afraid it will cause gossip.
I put down the pearl hairpin in my hand and said indifferently, "Let him in." The servant scurried off. I walked over to the stone table in the courtyard and sat down. Before long, Gu Yan entered the courtyard, supported by Zheng Ying. I was slightly surprised. That day, the Marchioness of Yong'an's attitude clearly showed she strongly disliked Zheng Ying. But looking at it now, it seemed as though she had tacitly approved of her presence.
Cousin, slow down.
Zheng Ying supported Gu Yan as they walked into the courtyard. Her gaze directed at me full of provocation, as if having snatched Gu Yan away made her superior to me. I said to Gu Yan, "I want to speak with you alone." Without hesitation, Gu Yan turned and ordered Zheng Ying.
Go wait outside.
Zheng Ying's face turned pale, and she bit her lip hard.
Cousin, let me stay and accompany you. What if you fall?
Gu Yan pushed her away, forcing himself to stand up straight.
My body is perfectly fine. I won't fall. Do not speak such nonsense in the future. Get out.
He did not want to show weakness. If rumors of his severe illness reached the palace, the emperor would be even less likely to allow him to inherit the title. Zheng Ying's eyes welled with tears. She stamped her foot, turned, and left the courtyard, but she did not go far, waiting just by the gate. I swept a casual glance over her, then said to Gu Yan, "What business do you have with me?" Gu Yan clenched his fists.
Did you take that painting of mine to go see Her Royal Highness, the Princess Royal?
My red lips curled slightly. I really. Gu Yan's face instantly flushed red. Clenching his fists, he said,
Song Qingxu, you knew all along that it was a relic of the late prince consort, and you knew the Princess Royal had been searching for it. That is why you deliberately tricked me out of that painting, to take it and claim the credit, right? Is that it?
I stood up. I walked up to him step by step and said softly, "I really. What can you do about it?" Probably not expecting me to answer like this, Gu Yan's eyes widened, looking as if he might faint. Only after a long while did he say,
Song Qingxu, how can you be so shameless?
"If we are talking about being despicable and shameless, I cannot compare to you in the slightest." I took out the written agreement and unfolded it in front of him. "Young Master Ji, open your eyes and look closely. On that day, you willingly used the item to offset your debt. I even specifically asked if you were willing, and you agreed with your own mouth, signing and placing your thumbprint. Do you want to go back on your word now?" Seeing the agreement, Gu Yan realized that he had personally ruined his own path to success. His body swayed. I said in a leisurely manner, "Young Master Gu, even if we take this matter to the authorities, you do not have a leg to stand on. Please leave."
Foey.
Gu Yan spat out a mouthful of fresh blood. I took 2 steps back in disgust. He looked up at me with a sorrowful gaze.
Qingxu, must you be so heartless? How deeply in love we once were. If you had given the painting to me, and if I had received the Grand Princess's patronage, I would have surely repaid you. Why must you do things so ruthlessly? You have become so unfamiliar.
I furrowed my brows. Gu Yan, the one who is brazenly shameless is you. You were the one who betrayed me first, and you were the one who was heartless first. Now you still have the face to say such things? Gu Yan reached out his hand, as if trying to grab my wrist.
Qingxu, I know I was wrong. I don't actually love Zheng Ying. The one I have always loved is you.
I glanced at Zheng Ying, who was standing by the courtyard gate. Oh? Really? Say it louder. I can't hear you clearly. Gu Yan coughed violently for a moment, then shouted loudly.
Qingxu, I have always loved you. I don't like Zheng Ying at all.
By the gate, Zheng Ying swayed slightly. I shook my head, but I don't like you. Between you and me, there is no longer any possibility. Please leave, young Master Gu. Do not come back to disturb me in the future. After I finished speaking, I ordered the servants to see the guests out. Gu Yan left dejectedly with Zheng Ying. I heard that as soon as he returned to his estate, he he fell ill again and was bedridden. He fell ill again and was bedridden. 2 days later, Hong Yao reported to me.
I heard that last night. Miss Zheng rushed into young Master Gu's room and had a huge fight. Young Master Gu was coughing while arguing, sounding absolutely wretched. People outside could hear it very clearly. It seems things were also being smashed.
I sighed softly, continuing to flip through the book in my hand. I suspect Zheng Ying won't be able to hold back much longer. In my past life, Zheng Ying relied on that very secret leverage to enter the estate. In this life, she publicly exposed her affair with Gu Yan, leaving herself with no way out except to marry Gu Yan. But the Marchioness of Yong'an dislikes her, and Gu Yan is unwilling to marry her as his primary wife. The words Gu Yan spoke in my courtyard must have stung her deeply. She must be getting desperate. Hong Yao said,
Your prediction is correct, miss. Miss Zheng made a huge scene, saying that even if she couldn't be the primary wife, being a concubine would do. But the Marchioness of Yong'an still refused to agree. That was why Miss Zheng barged into young Master Gu's courtyard to make such a scene.
Now, the Marquise's estate had exhausted its wealth. Its reputation was utterly ruined, and they were beset by troubles on all sides. The Marchioness of Yong'an and Gu Yan must have been even more desperate to form an alliance with a noble family through marriage to resolve their predicament. There was absolutely no way they would allow Zheng Ying to become the primary wife, and if they wanted to marry a daughter of a noble family, it was impossible to take a concubine before the primary wife entered the household. Zheng Ying not only couldn't be the primary wife, she couldn't even be a concubine. Naturally, she was filled with resentment. After she made such a scene, the Yong'an Marquise's estate would certainly no longer tolerate her. I said to Hong Yao, have our people keep a close eye on the side gate of the Marquise's estate. I'm afraid something is about to happen. In the middle of the night, Hong Yao suddenly entered the inner chamber to wake me.
Miss, wake up quickly.
I opened my eyes and sat up from the bed. What is it? Hong Yao said in a low voice.
Our people saw a carriage parked at the back gate of the Yong'an Marquise's estate. 2 older maids tied someone up and put them into the carriage. Judging by the figure, it should be Miss Zheng.
I said, have our people intercept that carriage? I was not surprised at all. Knowing the true nature of Gu Yan and the Marchioness of Yong'an, I had long anticipated this outcome. Zheng Ying held leverage over Gu Yan and was also hindering Gu Yan's marriage prospects. Now that she was making such a scene and was emotionally unstable, killing her was the easiest way out for them. The end the Yong'an Marquise's estate had planned for Zheng Ying was that she stole valuable property from the estate in the middle of the night and eloped with a lover. They did not dare to do the deed inside the estate, so they wanted to bind her and take her out of the city to find a quiet place to finish her off. As dawn was about to break, my subordinate reported back.
My lady, the girl has been saved. We told her that the Marquise's estate would not let her off.
I nodded. Understood. Zheng Ying had been backed into a corner. To stay alive, there was only one thing she could do. At noon, Hong Yao came to report that early in the morning, Zheng Ying had gone to the magistrate's office to beat the drum and cry grievance, accusing the Marquis of Yong'an's estate of trying to murder her to silence her. Furthermore, she identified Gu Yan as the man who had sneaked into Princess Leyi's room that day. The governor of Qingxu immediately led men to the Marquis's estate and arrested Gu Yan. Gu Yan flatly denied it, while Zheng Ying adamantly insisted. The once loving couple attacked each other in the courtroom, wishing they could tear each other apart. As they bickered endlessly, the Duke of Chen brought a man to the Qingzhou office. That man was his nephew. At the flower viewing banquet that day, his nephew had harbored social climbing ambitions. He bribed a maid to drug the drinks, hoping to become the princess's husband. Unexpectedly, when he arrived, he found someone had already beaten him to it. The nanny cried out in alarm, and the man leaped out of the window, allowing his face to be seen. Terrified, he didn't dare show himself again and hurriedly retraced his steps. That man was Gu Yan. He pointed at Gu Yan and shouted loudly, "It was him. I didn't dishonor the princess. He did it. It has nothing to do with me." Gu Yan turned deathly pale and collapsed completely to the ground, attempting to harm the princess and trying to murder Zheng Ying to silence her. Both witness and physical evidence were fully present. Gu Yan was sentenced to execution after autumn. The Marchioness of Yong'an, as an accomplice, had her estate confiscated and was exiled 3,000 miles away. Zheng Ying's reputation was completely ruined. When the Marchioness tried to kill her, she slashed her face, leaving her with virtually no way out for the rest of her life. After the matter was settled, she quietly left the capital and never appeared again. Before Gu Yan's execution, I went to the prison to see him. Inside the dim prison cell, the moment Gu Yan saw me, he rushed to the wooden bars. Qingxu, Qingxu, have you also been reborn? I paused slightly and looked up at him. Gu Yan looked at me with burning eyes, as if looking at a lost treasure that had been found again. I was reborn too. 2 days ago, I suddenly remembered everything from my past life. Many things are different in this life. I guess that you must have been reborn. My fingers trembled slightly. He was reborn too. That is wonderful. Gu Yan reached out, trying to grab my sleeve, his voice filled with pleading.
Qingxu, I know I was wrong. I know you've always had me in your heart. After you passed away in our last life, I finally realized that the one I truly loved was you. I regret it so much. I should have treated you well while you were still alive.
I let out a soft chuckle. Gu Yan froze. Then did you ever slit your throat at my grave to atone for your sins, since you regretted it? Did you ever give away all your wealth, dismiss your wives and concubines, and remain chaste for me? Gu Yan's face turned pale. I continued, regretting only after someone is dead didn't stop you from surrounding yourself with women and enjoying wealth and power. Your regret is utterly worthless. I don't care for it. Gu Yan, originally, letting you die like this left me with some regrets. Now that I know you have also been reborn, and that you must accept this ending, I am very pleased. Gu Yan's face filled with fear.
Qingxu.
My eyes grew hot and tearful, but I smiled and said, Gu Yan, I came here today solely to witness your downfall. Seeing you miserable brings me peace of mind. Gu Yan grew desperate, clutching the bars as he cried,
Qingxu, I wronged you. I truly regret it. Please save me. In this life, I will love only you with all my heart.
He wailed. Even kneeling to kowtow, my heart remained completely untroubled as I calmly uttered a single word, no, and turned to leave. Without a single backward glance, the knot that had bound my heart across 2 lifetimes completely dissolved into nothingness. The next day, Gu Yan was taken to the execution ground. The sunlight spilled across the windowsill, falling upon the open pages of my book. The crabapples in the courtyard were in full bloom, growing in dense, vibrant clusters, like rosy clouds. I reached out my hand to catch a beam of warm, golden light. The past has entirely drifted away. Everything that lies ahead will follow my own heart's desire.